Shunali, the past couple of weeks have been a rather disturbing time for me because of the news that has come out.
Of all sorts of authors
yeah.
and their perversions.
Absolutely. First, you had Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
And the accusations
Whom you
against
love,
him.
by the way.
Whom I adore.
You're a big fan of Neil Gaiman.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I adored Alice Munro.
I could not, I never liked Alice Munro's writing. I don't like her short stories. I just find that it's too alien to me.
Okay. But I think I read it at a space and time when I sort of identified with some of the characters. So I liked her writing and I felt they were very interior and very... something I could resonate with, some of them. But then you come across this. That somebody knows that your own daughter has been sexually abused by your spouse.
From the age of 9.
At the age of 9, when the spouse was 50.
Yeah.
And the daughter gathers up the courage when she is 20 plus to come and tell her mother, this has happened to me. And her mother says, don't expect me to leave the man for something that misogynistic society.
Actually, that was the next thing that happened. The first thing that her first reaction like you said, Alice Munro got divorced from her first husband, got remarried to another man, and her daughter lived with
the father.
With the father. And when she would visit her mother and the stepfather, this man, in a very, very terrifying way, sexually abused this 9-year-old girl, continued to flash, talk to her about sexually explicit things, would take her on long drives, would talk about his sex life with her mother. And, when you read that, it is so depraved. It is so ghastly.
And he has apparently written a confession calling himself a Humbert, as if that exonerates him
Exactly.
of doing what he did.
But when she finally plucked the courage after becoming an adult to reach out to her mom and write to her in a letter that this is what happened. Because how do you get away from the guilt and the shame of something like that? It continues to define who you're going to be your whole life. And that's when the mother made it all about herself. She did not feel that her daughter, the child, got violated. She felt that, oh my God, he cheated on me with her. Imagine not feeling seen or heard by your own mother for something as degenerate as this.
And somebody who writes with such inner vision into the lives of women, I thought she would have more sensitivity when it came to her own daughter, and something as horrendous as this. To feel competitive with your 9-year-old in a situation where it is obviously such an imbalance of power, and such a situation where the child is helpless against the man, and she doesn't have the courage to come up and speak to her mother, to let that go under the rug because there's too much at stake to be talking about
It's
this.
misogyny again. You're too
Absolutely.
afraid to live alone. She continued to live with that rapist. There's not a word for that.
Yeah, he was a rapist.
A molester, rapist, a pervert, until his dying day. I think in 2013 or something.
Yeah.
Is when he died.
She lived with him.
She lived with him. And this just
She left him briefly. She left him briefly after this came out.
She first went away, I think, to her parents' home or whatever, and then she came back.
She came back. But the fact is, she chose to ignore it and to not do anything about it.
As a mother, especially when you think about this as a mother, Kiran, it's very hard to accept and process. And my first reaction to this, when I was discussing it with my friend Faiza Khan, who is an editor in the UK, and I said to her that, only white relationships can be this warped. And then I corrected myself because I know somebody in Bombay. Her mother got remarried. She's not from here. Her mother got remarried and started competing with her daughter for her husband's affections, because she could see he had an eye for this 13, 14-year-old girl. And when this girl went to the mother and said that he tried to grope me, so it wasn't something as awful as this, but he would try and grope her, maybe even molest her, but he didn't manage to completely rape her, thank God. And the mother said, "You are unhappy to see me happy." And so she did not believe her story. So this person that I know ran away from home at a very young age, educated herself, I guess with the help of relatives or whatever, and made a career for herself. The mother had 2, 3 other kids from this other husband. He eventually died, leaving her practically penniless. And this person I know till today, she's the only one who takes care of her mum. The other siblings have moved abroad. They have a life of their own. And then I was like, Indrani Mukherjee was also Indian.
Karmic justice happening.
So the thing is, yeah, we can't say that.
No, it does happen here. It does happen here, and things do get swept under the carpet. I think it's just that, as you know, we tend to hold somebody who is in a position of creating art to higher standards than we hold the rest of the world.
Yeah.
We somehow assume, and I'm mistaken, because you can look at the long list of artists and creative person and geniuses who have not led exemplary lives. I sort of assume, that somebody who's creating beauty is naturally good. And
Or
there's
somebody
goodness.
who's so sensitive, because creative people have an access to an inner core of another human being, one imagines, especially for writers and filmmakers. Roman Polanski raped a minor, an underage minor. He's still a fugitive.
He's still a fugitive, and it's so disturbing because that girl says very clearly that she refused. But because it was behind closed doors, and of course there was no evidence, she was only 14 at the time, and he was supposed to be shooting her for a French Vogue edition that he was guest editing at the time. Happened at Jack Nicholson's home when Jack Nicholson was not there around.
Right.
Angelica Houston, who was his then girlfriend, came and thought something was going on funny. She knocked on the door, asked him to open, and this guy said, "No, we're just wrapping up, we finished." And I hold Angelica Houston also responsible. If you felt something was funny, you damn well stood there and you had them open the door. You didn't walk away and get distracted.
Yeah.
If there was a child involved.
But this is like the Jeffrey Epstein and his Epstein or Epstein?
Epstein.
Jeffrey. It's like Jeffrey Epstein and what's her name? Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine, sorry, that's right. Yeah. Ghislaine Maxwell. Let's just say it again. It's like Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. But here's the thing, Kiran. So Roman Polanski did this. He became a fugitive, and then he went on to win another Oscar. Woody Allen continues to make movies. And I don't know what side of this debate you are on. I can, more often than not, separate art from artists. But there's a caveat to it. Because the whole conversation is about, can you separate art from artists, right? There have been many a painter, the masters,
Picasso,
who abused women,
brutalized
them. Neil Gaiman's case, which you must elaborate after this, about 2 women he has allegedly abused. One is his children's nanny in New Zealand, who's from 22, 23 years old
at the time,
and the other is from which country? The UK.
I think, I'm not sure which country, but
she's from the US.
From the
Miami.
US, and
she was a fan, and it was consensual. But even in a consensual relationship, he was so violent with her that she suffered terribly physically because of that, and mentally. And these 2 girls, they don't know each other, but their accounts are pretty similar. But I realized that if the artist is dead and gone, and my buying his piece of painting or watching a film made by him is not going to benefit him directly, I am okay with that. See, we have double standards. And Woody Allen's humor and comedy, I really enjoy it so much that I'm like, okay, yeah, he's a warped guy, he's a degenerate, but I can still put that difference. But I think with writers, because you're so close to the voice, that not that I'm even a fan of Munro, but I will not be able to read her again because it's too recent, too raw, and too offensive and disturbing to me at many levels. So you see that this whole thread of convenience and hypocrisy runs through my narrative of whether I can separate art from artist or not.
So it works, I think, similarly. For instance, Roald Dahl was supposed to be a miserable, nasty guy.
And racist.
And all the things. But I think I can still continue to read his work. The thing that gets me about Roald Dahl is that his wife, Patricia Highsmith, if I'm not mistaken. No, let me not take that. Let's
Google कर ले.
ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं. It's not important to the story. The fact that he was a nasty guy. Roald Dahl was really nasty, and we have accounts of how racist he was and all that. And I'm still willing to overlook that because his works give me such joy. But when you take somebody like Arthur C. Clarke, who is supposedly buying little boys in Sri Lanka.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yes. It makes me rethink my whole love for his work. Because I feel that your work is informed by your life and your life experiences. Where do I draw the line separating the two? Now you take somebody like a Nabokov who's written a very disturbing book like Lolita.
Yeah.
The book disturbs me, but I have nothing in Nabokov's life to make me detest him.
Maybe we don't know enough.
Maybe we don't know. Maybe it's not come out.
And the book is lyrical and all that, but the premise is awful.
Very disturbing.
Awful.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know whether to hate him for writing that, but I don't have reason to hate him personally because to all accounts he was devoted to his wife Veera.
But it's also a very old story.
If
If he lived in today's time and he had written a similar book today,
he would have been killed.
and you too might have been, in complete abeyance and acceptance of the public verdict that this man should be cancelled.
Yeah. I think we're also quick to cancel. Another case, and an artist I think we all grew up listening to and loved, Michael Jackson.
Sure.
His music we all loved, we adored. I still adore his music. The person, I don't know. I hear the stories, we've read about all that happened. We've seen the court case happening. We also know of the Michael Jackson as a child who lived that very traumatized childhood.
Extremely traumatic, yeah.
So I don't know where to separate that Michael Jackson as a child with that Michael Jackson who was reported to have abused so many young boys. So I don't know whether to have sympathy for that child who grew up to be this man who was constantly searching to be a child again.
When somebody has that kind of success as he did in the era when he was charged with abuse of children and minors, I at the time discounted it. I really did. I thought, they were after his money because some of the charges were proven false. And then some were in a vague territory. So I don't know. I haven't really given it much mind space since then. I would like to believe that he was innocent.
We would like to believe it. But, when there are so many multiple cases that come up, you start wondering. Like, for instance, with Neil Gaiman also. If there was one case that popped up, you would think that, okay, maybe somebody's out to get a good settlement. Yeah. Maybe it was a consensual thing that went wrong. But when another similar case props up somewhere else, then you think, okay, there's a pattern to this.
Tell me about his marriage. Is he now, at the moment, happily married? When he molested the nanny of his children in New Zealand, was he in the marriage? I know nothing about that.
I know nothing about that either, but all I know is that he seemed to be very in love with his partner and they had an open marriage but I don't think they were happily married.
No, I mean, that's irrespective. A pervert is a pervert. But here's the thing that, J.K. Rowling got trolled so much for talking about where she draws a line between transsexuals, right? And cancelled, and effigies were burned and whatnot. I was looking at the Twitter trend of Neil Gaiman. It died a very quick death. And I was trying to see if The Guardian, if New York Times, I subscribe to the New York Times, and for the benefit of a podcast today, I thought there might be some sort of a story there. Nothing.
Do you think it's because they're men?
It is because they are men. It is indeed because they are men. There's no other way to explain this. Or
is it because he's not as big as J.K. Rowling, or because the community that was offended by J.K. Rowling's statements and was quite vocal about their annoyance with what she said, and the women are not really standing up against this whole thing? And they're saying, okay, it's just another Me Too case.
I don't think so.
I mean, we've had so many Me Too cases over the years. It's just become like one more blind spot.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think so. If you go on Twitter and see the trend, and if you see people's comments, you will see that his fans are still standing by him. And it also died a very quick death. This was a few days ago.
Yeah, just a few
Yeah,
days ago.
Yeah.
And nobody's talking
And there are
about
two
it.
different kinds of crimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, like Sir Vidya, in his own confession. So Kiran, V.S. Naipaul, Sir Vidya, confessed to Patrick French in his autobiography that his cruelty might have killed his dying wife, because as she lay dying, he went and confessed all his sins to her.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. And people continue to enjoy his work. So I'm just saying that why should J.K. Rowling be punished then? Because when I can put that distance for the most part. And yes, so, there is a school of thought that when you endorse an artist who makes a living directly off his art, you are letting a criminal thrive.
Yeah.
But I think we've discussed this in our previous podcast that I am against cancel culture, and as are you. And I think as a society, we must give people a chance to course correct. No, so Kiran, as long as they're not repeat offenders, we can give them a chance. Okay, as a society. But to not give J.K. Rowling a chance and give Neil Gaiman a chance, I have a problem with that.
We don't know yet whether Neil Gaiman has been given a chance or not. It's just too recent. Now we don't know how
Because
these...
it's died so quickly, you will see. He will go on for book signing events and he'll go on to accuse the victims, which is typical.
On the other hand, you have somebody like a Kevin Spacey,
Yeah,
who got totally cancelled.
he did.
He did get totally cancelled.
It unfortunately happened at the time of the great wave of Me Too.
Yeah.
So it gained so much momentum that it ended up cancelling a whole lot of people who, if individual cases had cropped up at another time, might have gotten away with it. It was
Possibly.
a tide that took them.
Possibly. But you also had some people who came out of it. You had Bill Cosby.
Oh, yes. Oh, do you know, Kiran, that Hugo Boss used to design uniforms for the Nazi army?
Lovely.
So think twice before you... in case you cannot put a distance between artist and art.
Possibly. So I'm not really taking a call on that unless
I think one needs to draw a line at rape, murder.
Child abuse.
Would you read in Rani Mukherjee's next novel?
I haven't read-
novel because it's all fiction.
I
apparently.
have not read a first book. I am not going to go to any lit fest that invites her. I'm sorry. If I know that she's on the guest list, I'm not going to go, definitely.
Yeah, naturally.
And I just think it's ridiculous that somebody who has not even been cleared of a whatever.
No, she hasn't been exonerated at all.
She's out
just
on bail.
Yeah.
And she's putting out those dance videos out there every single day.
And I know I would ideally like to not give her this kind of importance that we talk about her, but the fact is that it's true crime and it's being consumed by a lot of viewers out there. But the wonderful thing about this show on Netflix is that, if you have two brain cells in your head and you watch that show, you will be certain that she incriminates herself.
In it, yeah.
Right?
Couple of times, in fact, I think.
Yes. And
just once.
Even her lawyer is so shifty-eyed. It's all actually so dodgy that you're pretty damn certain that, she... And then she accuses her poor dead father of raping her. That's a new twist to her story. Have you watched the show?
I have watched bits and pieces of it, and I think I was just so disgusted by the entire premise. I didn't watch it really thoroughly. But the fact remains that I am so appalled that we are platforming this person.
Yeah, that shows what kind of a society we live in. And again, here's the thing. All the other people we've discussed before this, I'm ashamed that I took her name in the same breath, but we were talking about crimes. All the other
murder
people,
fits in.
All the other people we've discussed before this have been real artists. They've created beautiful work.
She's not an artist. She's a con artist.
She is nothing. She's a con artist and she's charged with murder because...
So anyway, Indrani can't be spoken of in the same breath as these people because they at least have created something of worth and given something of beauty and joy to the world, if not for their own lives. But
off topic, I'll tell you something funny. This friend of mine, he said that he sent me a video of some socialite saying that, somebody put her on a spot and said, who is your favorite author? And she's about 58 years old and she says, I read so much, I just can't come up with the name on the spot, which I understand, it happens to me as well. And then she says, actually, Ayn Rand. So, okay. So,
love it.
So then he said that if people ask me who's your favorite author, I'm going to say Indrani Mukherjee.
This reminds me of something another celebrity actress said. She was asked which is her favorite book, and she said Animal Farm is good for kids to read it because it teaches them about animals
No
and
way.
farms. Yes.
Are you serious?
I am dead serious. I will pull that clip out and show
I
you.
want to know who it was. You can name her. This is on
Shilpa Shetty,
Are
I
you
think.
serious? Too good. This is the kind of gems that I live for.
So I think it's Shilpa Shetty. I need to
Can you quickly Google?
Google
Yeah.
and cross-check.
What a gem you've just dropped. the Stoic philosophy, which is that, detach yourself from creative work and the creator.
Okay.
And I can, for the most part, do it, but I can rarely do it with authors.
Okay.
What is your final conclusion on this about yourself?
I think it depends on how attached I am to the work or to the author's work or the creator's work. And it depends on the severity of the crime. It depends on what the crime is.
Yeah.
If it is something as acute as rape and child sexual abuse and assault, I might not be able to let it go.
So you don't watch Woody Allen movies now?
No, I haven't watched in a very long time.
Deliberately?
Ever since all the stories came out, I don't think I have the stomach to watch it. I loved Rosemary's Baby. I loved so much of his work, but I don't think I've watched anything since. And I don't think I could watch a Polanski, knowing what has happened. I don't think I could watch Last Tango in Paris again, knowing what they did to Maria Schneider on the sets. So there is that part of me that wants to say that, okay, I am not willing to accept that.
For all major crimes?
Yeah, for major crimes.
What about artists dead and gone? There, can you?
I still wouldn't be able to accept it. Okay. So, I mean, somebody like a Roald Dahl who was just a nasty little spit, maybe I can still go ahead.
I got it.
But something as serious as that, it definitely warps my view of the artist. And if the artist is alive and kicking and going to make money out of me subscribing to them or buying their stuff, definitely not. No way.